All right, young scholars, today we are going to go through this apartment calculator. Then I'm going to refer you back to homework number 3, which refers back to the make or buy analysis we did on Monday, just to remind you of these small little differences between the two situations. So go ahead and click on the apartments, the 3 little dots, and select download original file for the apartments file. And you should open a file that looks like so. While you're doing that, I'm going to read off all of the assumptions here for you and explain how all of them work. Now, get used to putting the assumptions down because, like I said, this is what you're going to have to do on the midterm that you're going to see on the midterm review. The idea is when you're doing this, you put these assumptions in so that you can use absolute cell references so that all you would have to do is change these cells and not have to change entire formulas. So Bob the Builder is deciding whether building new apartment complexes is worth it by comparing the rent, his generated income, to the cost of building and maintaining the apartment complexes. So our job here is to help Bob the Builder decide on which apartment complex is worth creating to produce the highest income. So there's a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom apartment complex that we're going to calculate here. So the 1-bedroom apartments have 3 rooms each. They have 875 square footage. The 2 bedrooms have 5 rooms each with 1,200 square footage. The 3 bedrooms have 8 rooms each with 2,500 rather each. So you see here 875, 1,200, 2,500. You see here 3, 5, and 8. The 1-bedroom has 50 apartments. The 2-bedroom has 30 apartments. The 3-bedroom has 10 apartments. So you see here 50, 30, and 10. So you see here 150, 150, and 80. That is simply the 3 times 50, the 5 times 30, and the 8 times 10. And then you see here above them a bunch of giant numbers. Those are the total square footages. So they take these numbers here, the total number of rooms, and multiply by these 3 numbers here, the square footage per room. So for the 1-bedroom, you have this full square footage, the 2-bedroom, that square footage, the 3-bedroom, that full square footage. All 3 apartment complexes are going to have an exercise room where Bob the Builder is going to charge $20 a month for the exercise room, regardless of whether or not they use it. So here we have the $20. As you'll see above, the income is going to be a total of rent, state rebate, and the exercise room fees. So the rent is going to be this formula here, the per room fee times the number of rooms plus the square root fee times the square footage. But remember, that's for only one apartment. So we'll have to multiply that by the total number of apartments as well. So the per room fee is $14, which we have listed here. The square root fee is $6, which we have listed here. So we have 2 of those 4 components so far. The state rebate is based on the total rooms and the total size in square feet. If the total size is greater than 13,000 square feet, or, so that's going to be an if-or function, rooms is greater than 55, then the rebate is $85. Otherwise, it's $95. So we have all that here. 13,000, 55, 85, 95. Bob the Builder is going to take out a loan, 4.5%, paying off monthly for 30 years. So we have the 4.5% and the 30 years. The cost to build is as follows. And then we have a table here, which is going to help us determine our present value for our payment function. But remember, the loan cost is determined on the construction of each building. Then there's taxes. The tax rate is 7% for the first 45,000 and 7.85% for everything over 45,000. So we have 7% here, 45,000, 7.85%, and another 45,000 there too. Then we have maintenance here. If the total square feet of the building exceeds 25,000, and so that'll be an if and income is greater than 54,000, the maintenance cost is $3 per square foot. If not, it's $3.25. If the maintenance cost is less than 45,000, it's rounded up to 45,000. So we have all of that here. 25,000 square feet, $54,000, $3.25, 45,000. So we start by calculating our monthly rent based on that formula described below. So we do equals, open parenthesis, open parenthesis. And since we have our per room fee, we select that cell E30. And now we need to multiply it by the number of rooms which for our one bedroom is in cell E22 at 150. But we need to make E30 an absolute because that's not going to change. It's always going to be $14, the per room fee. Then we add, open parenthesis, our square root fee times E19, which is our total square feet for our one bedroom apartments. And we make the E31 an absolute. That square root fee is the same for all three apartment complexes. But like I said here, this is just for one apartment. So we now need to multiply this by how many apartments we have. So the one bedroom complex has 150 apartments. So we select the 50 here in cell D22. And all of this should be in cell B20 or B2 here. And when you hit enter, it might give you this little error notification because I did not put a closing parenthesis at the end there. But if you autofill this across, you'll notice that you get $0, $0. That is because our assumptions here are set up column-wise. So they're going down, and I autofilled across. So the E22 and the E19 and the D22 turn into F, F, and E. We need to fix those up. So the F22 should be changed to E23 to represent the number of rooms in the two-bedroom apartment complex. The F19 needs to be changed to E20 to represent the total square footage for the 2-bedroom apartment complex. And the E22 needs to be changed to D23 to represent the 30 apartments in the 2-bedroom apartment complex. And once you've made those changes and hit enter, you now have an actual correct answer. And you have to go ahead and do the same for the 3-bedroom, where it has the G22. You now have to change that to E24, which reflects the 80 total rooms in the 3-bedroom apartment, the 8 times the 10. The G19 gets changed to E21 to represent the total square footage of the 3-bedroom apartment complex. And the F22 gets changed to D24 to represent the 10 apartments in that 3-bedroom complex. So you'll notice there, obviously, because there's less apartments in that complex, there's less rent being earned. The one with the most is the 1-bedroom, has the most apartments, the most rent being earned there. So next we have to calculate the monthly state rebate, which, if you recall down here, says if total size is greater than 13,000 or rooms is greater than 55, the rebate is 85 per apartment. Otherwise, it's 95 per apartment. So you have your 13,000, 55, 85, 95 listed in the assumptions below there. So since it says in the statement, if or, that's what you'll use as your formula. So if or E19, which is your total square footage, is greater than 13,000, but we make that an absolute because it doesn't change, comma, E22, which is our number of rooms, greater than 55. Both say greater than, but that does not change either. So that becomes an absolute. Close parenthesis, and that closes our or, comma. If it's true, then it's our $85. That does not change, so that is also an absolute, comma. If it's false, wait, did I select the right one? We want $85. There we go, G34. And make it an absolute. Comma. And then if it's false, it is our H34, our $95. So in the pre-recorded version, I think I just put $85 and $95 here. But then that just gives it to us for one of these apartments. We have to multiply this whole thing by all of the apartments. So we multiply by, in this first instance, D22 for the 1-bedroom apartment complex. So when you hit enter, we now have an answer a little over $4,200. But again, when you autofill it across, because these numbers are going column-wise and we're autofilling row-wise, we're not getting correct answers. We have to click back in and modify accordingly. So here our F19 in C3 needs to be changed to E20. Our F22 needs to be changed to E23. And our E22 needs to be changed to D23 to reflect all of the correct parameters. And when you enter out of that, you now have the correct answer, a little over 2,500. And in the 3-bedroom, the G19 needs to be changed to E21 to reflect the total square footage. The G22 needs to be changed to E24 to reflect the total number of rooms. And the F22 needs to be changed to D24 to represent the total number of apartments. And again, because that has the fewest apartments, that has the lowest amount. And again, you know it's an if or because the statement says if total size is greater than 13,000 square feet or rooms is greater than. So that's how you know it's an if or statement because it literally has those words in it. So next we're asked to calculate the monthly exercise room fees. So it simply says here that it's $20 per tenant. So I made the assumption here that there's a person living in every room just to make it easier on everybody. So I simply do equals. I select that $20 in E26. I make it an absolute. And then I multiply it. You could do it either by doing this, C22 times D22, or since you already have those two multiplied together, you could simply multiply by E22. And then when you hit enter, you have 3,000. And then autofill across, you'll notice you have zeros again. F22 needs to be changed to E23, and the G22 needs to be changed to E24. So E23 and E24. So now, since we just did some pretty complex formulas there, I'm going to take a little break here and do 3 simpler formulas before we jump into the 3 cost formulas there. So first, we're going to do the largest monthly profit formula. Whenever you see largest, it simply is asking for the max. Whenever you see smallest, it's simply asking for the min. So here for largest monthly profit, all you have to do is equal max, open parentheses, highlight your 3 profits, and then close parenthesis. And that will tell you whichever one of these profits is the highest, the maximum. So right now, the 1 bedroom is the highest. Once we calculate the costs, that profit might change, which might change our overall largest monthly profit. And then we do the same to calculate our average monthly profit. We do equals average, open parentheses. We highlight our range of our monthly profits, B10 colon D10, close parentheses, enter, which adds the 3 of them together, divides by 3. And again, that will change once we calculate the costs of all 3. And then for the 3 of them, the whole point of the exercise is to determine whether or not to build these or not. Are we going to make a profit? Just like you did with the make or buy analysis. So we simply do an if function. So we do equals if, open parenthesis, if our profit, B10, greater than our cost, B9, comma, quote, build. If we're going to make money, then we're going to build it, comma, if it's false, do not build. If we're going to lose money, then we're not going to build it. So right now we have 0 cost, a bunch of profit, so it's going to build. That may change based on our costs. So we click back in. White plus turns to black plus when we go to the bottom corner and autofill across. We click back in, C10, C9, D10, D9. Okay, we don't have to change anything. Because we went across with our rows as we need rather than columns, everything is fine. We don't need to change any. So right now they're all builds because we have not calculated any costs. However, they may change just like the largest and the average based on our calculations of the 3 cost functions. So now we need to calculate our monthly loan payment function. So we do equals and then minus, because with our payment function, we're always given a negative number for our payment function. So we put the negative in front there because a negative times a negative gives us a positive number. So we do minus sign CMP, open parenthesis. We scroll down and we select our 4.5% interest rate from cell E35. We make that an absolute cell reference. Comma, our number of payments, we select the 30 from cell F35. We make that an absolute. However, it still says that we're paying the loan off using monthly payments for 30 years. So that 30 is then multiplied by 12. Comma. Now we need to determine our present value. So we take our total square footage. In this first instance, we're doing the 1 bedroom, multiplied by, we need to look at what our square footage is for each room. In this instance, it's 875. So we look in our table here. Okay, 875 is between 701 and 999. So we multiply that by the 260. You'll notice while we're looking at the table that the other two square footages are both over 1,000, 1,200 and 2,500. So those other two will be B41, the 230. So we close that out and we hit enter. And our monthly loan payment cost is a little over 1.5 million for the one bedroom. So we autofill that across, and we notice we have zeros because, as I mentioned, these are column-wise and we're going across row-wise. So as I mentioned, this last part here is going to be B41 for both of these to reflect that $230 from our table here because of the 1,200 and 2,500 square footage per room being greater than 1,000. In the two bedroom, that F19 has to be changed to our 180,000 there in E20, our total square footage for the two bedrooms. So all we're changing for the two bedroom is the last two parts. It should be E20 times B41. And then for the three bedroom, the last part should be E21 times B41 to represent the total square footage times the amount it's going to cost us per square foot based on our discount by square footage of room. And as a reminder, make sure that you're going through and doing these formulas as I'm teaching you them and saving them rather than just having the numbers, because these are your quote unquote notes that you're going to refer back to for the exam. You're going to have to be able to look at the sentence. Oh, it says if and or in the sentence. Okay, that means I need to use this nested function, if or. Because there's no textbook, you're going to refer back to all of this. Now we're asked to do our monthly taxes. So it says the tax rate is 7% for the first 45,000 and 7.85% for everything over 45,000. So we do equals, open parenthesis, we take that 45,000 from cell E45, we make it an absolute. We multiply it by our 7%. In D45, we make that an absolute. That's not going to change. That's the same for all of them. Since every one of these has a rent higher than 45%, you saw the lowest was something like 12 million. All of them are going to be higher than $45,000. So we do that. Plus, open parentheses, E2, which is our monthly rent, minus G45, which is another 45,000. We make that an absolute, close parenthesis, times our 7.85%. And we make that an absolute as well. And then we close out with a close parentheses. So it's 45,000 times the 7%, because every one of these is over 45,000, plus our monthly rent minus 45,000, because everything over the 45,000 is taxed at 7.5% times that 7.85%. And you'll see above here, every one of them is over 12 million. So when we hit enter, we have a little over $3 million in taxes. We click back in the cell. We autofill across. The only thing that changes is the B2 to C2 and D2. Since we're going across by row, everything changes appropriately. And again, you'll notice that the lowest amount of apartments has the lowest cost, just like it had the lowest earnings. The highest amount of apartments has the highest cost, just like it had the highest amount of earnings. So last but not least here, we need to calculate our monthly maintenance cost. So if the total square footage of the building exceeds 25,000 square feet and income is greater than 54,000 per month, the maintenance cost is $3 per square feet, etc. So you now know that this is an if and nested function, because that is what the statement says. So we do equals if with an and inside. So we're checking E19, which is our total square footage, because that's what it says. If the total square footage of building exceeds 25,000, so we select E49, which has our 25,000. We make that an absolute, comma, B5, which is our income, greater than, because that's what it tells us. Then we select cell F49, which has our 54,000 in it, close parentheses. So our and is now complete. We've got both things that we're checking for our and. If it's true, then we multiply our total square footage, E19, times that $3 in G49. We make that an absolute because that does not change. Comma, if it's false, our E19 is multiplied by the $3.25 in H49, our higher cost. So we make that an absolute. And we close the if statement out. And again, the point of using these assumptions and the absolutes is so this way you don't have to change any of these formulas. If, let's say, the maintenance cost ends up, you change it to $8 per square feet and $8.25. You just go in and change these two cells here rather than having to change the entire formula. So when you hit enter, you now get an answer of a little under 400,000 for your maintenance cost. And again, if you click back in and autofill across, you'll notice we get zeros because we're autofilling by row, and some of these are set up by column. So you click in, you don't have to worry about C5, but everywhere it says F19 now, you're going to change to be E20 to represent the total square footage. So all of the F19s now become E20. So there should be 3 instances of them. And the B5 changed to C5, that is perfectly fine. So you should have E20, E20, E20. And then in the last one, the G19s all change to E21. E21, E21. The D5 is perfectly fine. It reflects our income. And you notice here the average and the max changed based on the changes in the total profit. And again, as always, with the full lecture recordings, I will plop them up here, right above Excel Homework 3. But before I open it up to questions, I'm going to open up the Excel Homework 3 instructions and remind you of this. So we did the muffins example in class Monday. I want to point out, make sure that you change the assumptions from the muffins to accommodate for the brownies. Like, for example, the muffins was 30 ounces. The brownies are 10 ounces. The brownies here for the homework are percentages of cents here. Formatting. So for mine, it was $15 an hour. It's $12.50 an hour for the labor. Make sure you right click, format cells, 2 decimal places, because if you don't do that, it may show it as $13, and you may have the function correct, but if it shows that as $13, your answers may be off, which may result in, your make buy answer overall being an issue. And where was the other one I wanted to make sure that everybody, oh, here it is. So the administration in the example I gave in class. So if you were under, or if you were over 1,000 rather, it deferred back to 1,000. Whereas in this example, if you're under 1,000, it goes up to 1,000. So you're going to have to change the greater than or less than sign, for example, in order to correct that difference between the in-class exercise and homework exercise. So make sure you go through and you're reading all the minor differences between the in-class exercise and the homeworks. Make sure you're modifying all of the assumptions accordingly, especially with the equipment, because there's only 2 costs with the equipment, whereas in the in-class exercise, there was multiple. All right, so I will open it up to questions on what we just did with the apartment tutorial here, as well as any questions you might have with homework 3. Are there any questions? Yes, no, maybe so. No? All right. Well, if there are no questions, I will see everybody on Monday. Again, make sure that you are using your formulas when you submit these. That's why you said you want to have all those formulas included to get credit and have them to be able to refer back to for the midterm examination.